All right. Hey guys. It's been a few weeks now since I finished up my putting that single strand of hotline, and I figured I wanted to do a cost breakdown. I wanted to tell you guys here's what it costs to electrify my 4 acres for rotational grazing. You see I've got these guys over there in their new central lane paddock area. Anyways, I'll do a video on that separately. But today, I wanted to come back and kind of do like an update on here's how the fence is working. I mean, it's working so much better. If you haven't seen the other video, definitely recommend you go check that out on how I built this. You see me struggle through it, but basically it's working great. It was totally worth it, and I wanted to break down exactly what this cost me. So that way, if you're having a similar project coming up, you could use this as a bench line. But here, mid-April 2026, this is what it costs to do this. So I'll go line by line on some of these things, and then at the end I'll obviously give you the total. But here's what we're working with. So essentially, first thing you think of when you want to electrify your fence is you need a fence charger. I've got a Gallagher S30, and that's from Amazon. That's the only thing I bought from Amazon. The rest of all this stuff I got at Tractor Supply. But I paid $340 for that Gallagher solar charger, and I'd say it meets my expectations. It works. Even on cloudy days, like it still holds a charge over from all the sun. But yeah, that's your first thing. You got to get your charger. I purchased that last year, but today's price is $340. You need two. I use two ground rods. You know, you could it'd probably be better to do a third, but I have two ground rods in my setup, and they are $29 each, and so that's a total of $60. And also, I'm rounding to the nearest cent dollar, just to keep things easier. So, two ground rods, $29 each. We're at $60 for that. We also need the ground rod clamps, so that is for when you drive the ground rod into the ground, you have to clamp a wire to it. So I needed two of those clamps. They were $5 each, so $10. Then the real, probably the biggest expense here was the actual wire. So I got 4,000 feet because that was the only roll I could find at my local Tractor Supply. I paid $185, and really I only used maybe half of it. I'd have to do the math to see actually how much I used, but there's a lot left over. So you could probably kind of fudge the numbers a little bit there. But 185 for some pretty heavy duty 12 gauge, 12 and a half gauge wire. I'll put up exactly what I bought, but it was heavy duty, good wire, and that's what I ran a single strand around the entire perimeter. So then we get into insulators, a lot of insulators on this job. So I use multiple types. One was the corner insulator. It looks like a football, kind of. So I used 2 bags of those, $13 each, so it's $26. I have a lot of wood posts. I have mixed wood post and T-post around my perimeter. So on the wood post, I used these little black hooks. I needed 2 bags of those at $19, so $38. And then on all the T-posts, I did 2-inch insulators, and I used 4 bags of those, $9 each, so $36. Then you get into your tensioners. So every so often you need to cut the wire, and then you need to put a tensioner in there. They were $7.50 each. I needed 5 of them, so $37. I needed a pack of crimps. This was the first project where I used a crimp tool, and totally recommend you do it. I mean, if you've been on the fence, if you've just been wrapping the wire like I have on every termination I've ever done, splurging for the crimp tool, definitely recommend. But I bought a pack of crimps that was $29, and then I guess I'll cover the crimper tool was $85. So it hurts to buy a new tool, but honestly, it was worth it, and I'm sure I'll use it again. So what's next? Pack of crimps, we got $29. under gate wire, I have one, two, three, I think 4 gates, and it's always good to have some extra wire, but you need insulated wire to go underneath so you can continue the charge from one side of the gate to the other. So I bought a 200-foot roll of that. Again, you could probably fudge the numbers a little bit if you got the exact amount of wire you need, but it's good to have a little bit of extra of that just laying around. So that was $90 for that 200-foot roll. Um, Wire splicers. So that is like you make your connection. Well, you have your single strand running, then you need a connection to the insulated wire that goes underneath the gate. So you got to make a connection on either side of that. I got a 10-pack of these wire splicers that I like. I would recommend them. They were $40 though. So next thing, now I'm getting into some of the tools I use, or actually a couple more materials that were actually critical in this. I used eye bolts on my end connections because I'm adding a hot wire after a field fence was installed. And the field fence is on the inside of the posts. So I needed a way to terminate, and I've never seen a video on that, but basically I drilled an eye bolt in and then hooked up one of those donut insulators and then ran my wire that way. I needed, how many of those did I get? I think it was 8 of those eye bolts for $56. And then I used a couple of those ceramic lag bolts just to try them. I used 2 of those, so that's $15 for both. That covers all the materials I used. Now, a few things that I think you need pretty much is a fence tester if you don't already have one already. That's the only other thing I bought from Amazon. So again, everything else was Tractor Supply, but on Amazon I got the charger and the fence tester. The fence tester was $32. Again, the crimper tool, huge quality of life improvement. It was $85, but definitely recommend it. And the tensioner tool. So this is how you tension the sprocket. I think you can get away with using like a pair of pliers or something, but again, kind of quality of life. It's only $14, and I built a ton of H braces on this property, and I have a lot more to do. So I've used that tool quite a bit. I'd say definitely worth it. I'll throw a picture of that up so you know what I'm talking about. But and then the last tool I bought that I would totally recommend, I don't know if I would want to do this project without it, was a spinning jenny. It's like a piece of metal that you put your wire roll on top, and it just keeps things organized. Because if you cut the bands on that 4,000-foot roll of wire, it's just going to go everywhere. It'll be a tangled mess. Basically, what that does is it'll keep things neat and tidy. So definitely recommend getting a spinning jenny. I think you can make one on your own out of like 2x4s, but I was wanting to get this project done, so I just bought it. And that covers it all. So here's the totals. So at Tractor Supply, before taxes, I didn't include any taxes here, $733 at Tractor Supply. And then at Amazon, $340 for the Gallagher charger and $32 for the tester. All in, I'm at $1,105 to get my 4 acres. That was my cost, $1,105. If you add in taxes, I estimate $1,175. So for $1,175, I've got 4 acres of hot wire where I can splice it up and make any size paddock I want, and it's hot everywhere. So that's going to be huge for this year's grazing system. So yeah, all in 1175. You could nitpick some of this, so I pulled out some of the tools that I mentioned. If you wanted just the material, so I got rid of tensioners, or the tensioning tool I mentioned, the spinning jenny, I got rid of the crimper, and I got rid of the wire tester, assuming you already have a tester, but you definitely need one. If you get rid of all that, you're at $899. So call it $900, and you've got yourself a hot pasture. So again, I bought more wire than I needed on a couple, the gate wire and the actual high tensile wire. So can kind of estimate that. I have a lot of extra materials, but for the most part, about $1,000, you can get this project done. So stay tuned. I'm going to show you my rotational grazing setup. Now that I have a hot wire all the way around, I can get a lot more creative, and that'll be coming up. So hope you enjoyed 2026 April prices.